All right, we ready to resume, Ms. Corey, or?
May I just let my witnesses, my victims' families know what's coming up, just to give everyone a thing. We're ready, Judge.
All right, bring the jurors back in there, please. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're ready to resume. You can resume your seats. And the state is ready to call their next witness.
Yes, Judge. The state calls Philip Miranda.
Philip Miranda, please. Good afternoon, Mr. Miranda. If you'll come forward to the front, all the way up to the front, and you raise your right hand, please. The clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay.
All right, sir, if you'll come right around here and have a seat for me. And you can adjust that microphone as you need, and just be sure and speak directly into it and keep your voice up so we can all hear you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Ms. Corey?
State and spell your name for the record, sir.
It's Philip J. Miranda.
What is your occupation?
I am a crime scene investigator with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been a crime scene investigator?
Approximately 2.5 years.
Okay. And in that capacity, can you go back and tell the jurors about your educational background prior to becoming a crime scene investigator?
I have an associate's in criminal justice from Valencia Community College and a bachelor's in arts in criminal justice from the University of Central Florida.
All right. And what was your specialty when you got your bachelor's?
My specialty was criminal justice, but I also have a certificate in crime scene investigations.
Okay. And what did that involve, the study that you made of crime scene investigations?
It just involved pretty much handling evidence and photographing, documenting scenes. I took a few classes on interviews and interrogations, anthropology, of that sort.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to talk over you. Finish your answer.
Oh, I'm finished.
Okay. Are you a sworn law enforcement officer?
No, I am not.
Now, does the Brevard County Sheriff's Office differ from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in that they use crime scene investigators, literally CSIs, to do crime scene work?
Yes.
Are there any sworn officers who are part of your CSI unit?
Only my supervisor.
And do you work under his supervision?
Yes, I do.
Once you went to work for the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, did you acquire more on-the-job training as well as classes?
I received a 16 weeks training as part of being employed with the Sheriff's Office.
How do you respond to scenes in general? How are you contacted?
Via telephone. I'm usually on call, and then if something happens and I'm requested, they would give me a call to respond to the scene.
So on a particular Saturday, could you be home and then get a call to respond to a scene?
Yes.
And have you had training in digital photography?
Yes, that was part of the 16-week training program.
And how about packaging physical evidence?
That was also part of the 16-week training program.
Now, if a crime occurred outside of your county, would you rely on both your detectives and the detectives from the other county to indicate to you what they would like to be done?
Yes.
Do you ever make that decision on your own as to what to process or not to process?
At times I do, but since it wasn't our investigation, I did not make that decision.
Right. And let me take your attention back to Saturday, November 24th of 2012. Did you become involved in an investigation that originated out of Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida?
Yes.
Were you called to a home in Brevard County?
Yes, I was.
And as part of your job as a CSI, do you make notes in the normal course of your business?
Yes, I do.
And do you then put those notes into an official police report that stays with Brevard County?
Yes.
And did you all furnish those reports to the lead detective, Mark Musser of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Do the Brevard County reports bear their own case number pursuant to Brevard County procedures?
Yes, they do.
And when you take those notes and put those into an official report, do they accurately reflect the work that you did on a case?
Yes.
What do you do with your digital photographs?
They are forwarded to our records unit over in Brevard County,
All right.
and they
Now-
were also forwarded to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, sir. And then with regard to any physical evidence that you processed that day, would you have packaged that and put it into your own property room, or did you turn it over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
They were turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office
Okay, sir. Now, let me take your attention to that day. What time were you called?
at approximately 4:30 p.m.
And what time did you arrive at this residence?
At approximately 5:15 p.m.
Where in Brevard County is the residence to which you responded?
It was at 257 Ocean Residence Court in Satellite Beach, Florida.
And is Satellite Beach literally on the ocean?
Yes.
Okay, but it's part of your jurisdiction,
Yes, it is.
and your agency covers the entire county of Brevard County.
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with the actual takedown or arrest of Michael Dunn?
No, I did not.
Was that done outside of your presence?
Yes, it was.
And then were you asked to take photographs of the vehicle that was in his garage at that location?
Yes, I was.
And did you take photographs once you opened the garage door? Did you take those photographs after opening the garage door?
I took them while the door was down and then after
Okay.
the garage door was up.
I'll show you those photographs in just a moment. And then did you limit your investigation or your part of the investigation to the garage itself, just outside of the garage, and the vehicle that was in the garage?
Yes.
Did you ever have any need to go inside that residence at all?
Just to make my way into the garage.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a series of photographs, sir, that are in evidence. So we'll start with states 98 in evidence. Tell the jurors what that is.
That would be the outside of the residence.
Okay, and the address that's the inset portion of that, to which of those garage doors does it pertain?
To the left-hand side.
And did you understand that to be the residence of Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Okay, and you took this picture prior to going into the garage?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, well, then did you enter the house to come around and open the door?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me show you State's Exhibit 99 in evidence. Explain that photograph to the jury.
That would be a photograph of the vehicle once the garage door was open.
Did you see any damage to the rear end of this vehicle, on Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
Let me show you, sir, State's Exhibit 100 and explain that to the jury.
That would be the front driver's side of the vehicle.
Did you see any damage to the front driver's side of Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
State's Exhibit 101 in evidence. Is that both a photo of the back of the vehicle and a close-up of the tag?
Yes, it is.
And what was the tag number that you documented in that photograph?
937 VMV.
All right, sir. And Your Honor, at this time, may I display the evidence that was put in earlier, the brown bag with that tag number on it?
Yes, ma'am.
The jurors can see it while this photo is up. And I'm referring to State's Exhibit 170 in evidence. Thank you. Detective, let me ask you then to look at the next photograph, number, hold on, my eyes can't see that far, 102, and describe that to the jury, please.
That would be the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
All right. Did you ever see any damage to this portion of Michael Dunn's vehicle?
No, I did not.
States 103 in evidence.
That is the interior side of the front driver's side door.
Were all of the exterior photographs taken before you yourself opened that door?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Were you ever asked at all to process the outside of Mr. Dunn's vehicle?
No, I was not.
Were you ever asked to look for fingerprint evidence on the outside of his vehicle?
Nope.
Were you asked to look for any stray evidence of a shooting on the outside of his vehicle?
No, I was not.
All right. Did you limit your portion of this case to photographing and looking inside the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me take you then to State's Exhibit 104, describe that area to the jury.
That is the front driver's side seat and floorboard.
Okay. And now, when we were preparing for trial on State's Exhibit 105, it's in the wrong spot. 105 is the original photo I showed you last night, and what did we notice?
We noticed that the square was in the wrong spot.
The little square.
Yeah, the little square.
All right, but the picture itself is accurate, is that correct?
Correct.
And the big square is accurate, it's just turned slightly.
Correct.
Okay, so now let me go to 105R, which is just the revised red boxes. Can you explain to the jury what you found in that location in Mr. Dunn's driver's floorboard area?
I located a cartridge casing.
Okay, and is it hard to see in that little square?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so does the inset photo in State's 105R accurately reflect that shell casing?
Yes, it does.
And did it run along the bottom portion of the mat as opposed to the side portion?
Yes.
So 105R is the accuracy with regard to the red boxes, but the picture is the same, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. And then did you take a close-up of the shell casing itself?
Yes, I did.
And is the purpose of 105 and 105R to show the casing in relation to the seat?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, the close-up, of course, 106, can you tell the jurors what the object to the left, first circle the shell casing. Okay, now tell them what the object to the left is.
That would be the floor mat of the driver's side floorboard.
And what is the object to the right of the shell casing?
That is a portion of the driver's side seat.
Okay. And did you remove that shell casing and preserve it for evidence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let me take you to would you erase? Thank you so much. States 107. What portion of the vehicle is this?
That is the rear passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay. Did you see any damage to the rear passenger side of the vehicle?
No, I did not.
States Exhibit 108. Can you tell the jurors why you took a photograph through the right passenger window?
I took that photograph because that is what I saw once I focused my attention to the driver's side or the passenger side of the vehicle.
Was that glove box open when you got there?
Yes, it was.
And is that photograph through the closed window of the right passenger door?
Yes.
Let me take you then to States 109 and explain your orientation on this photograph.
That is the firearm that I noticed inside the glove box, and I was outside of the vehicle again with the window closed.
Okay, why would you take the photos from outside the vehicle?
To show that that is what I first saw when I approached that side of the car.
Had anyone in your presence opened this right passenger's door prior to you taking these photos?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then did you open the door?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you States 110 in evidence and ask you to explain that photograph to the jury.
That is the front passenger seat, floorboard, and the open glove box with the firearm inside the glove box.
Did you touch any of the items in the glove box prior to taking this photograph?
No, I did not.
Okay. States 111 in evidence.
That is a photograph of the firearm inside the glove box.
And what type of firearm is that, sir?
It was a Taurus handgun, 9mm.
Is that considered a semi-automatic weapon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let me take you then to States Exhibit 112, and can you explain that composite exhibit to the jury?
When I removed the firearm from the glove box, I placed it in an evidence gun box, and I took a photograph of both sides of the firearm while it was in the holster.
And for further explanation, the sort of grayish background with the small dots, explain to the jury what that is.
That is the gun box that I sealed the gun in.
All right. And that would be a front and back photograph in number 112?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let me show you States Exhibit 113 and ask you to explain that composite photograph to the jury.
That is a photograph of the firearm once I removed the holster, and it was also inside of the gun box.
All right. And at this time, had you done anything with the magazine?
No, ma'am.
All right. States 114 in evidence. Can you explain that photograph to the jury?
Those are the identifying marks on the handgun.
And what are those identifying marks?
It's a Taurus PT-99AF 9mm para, and the serial number right below that.
And can you read off that serial number?
THB 16107.
And at this point, had you removed the magazine from that gun?
No, ma'am.
States 115 in evidence. Can you explain that composite photograph to the jury?
That would be a photograph of the magazine removed from the gun.
And is that both a front and back view of that magazine?
Yes, ma'am.
States 116, that photograph.
Those are the 5 cartridges removed from the magazine.
Were those the only live rounds that you removed from that magazine?
Yes, ma'am.
And at this point, did you do any further searching of the glove box?
No,
to
ma'am.
Look for any more ammunition?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware that this vehicle was going to be turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I was.
States 117 in evidence. Can you explain that photograph to the jury?
That is the head stamp of one of the cartridges removed from the magazine.
And explain to the jury what you mean by a head stamp.
The head stamp identifies the manufacturer and the caliber of the bullet or the cartridge.
And can you read that head stamp to the jury as it's displayed in the photograph?
It's Win 9mm Luger.
With regard to States Exhibit 118, explain that photograph composite to the jury.
That's a photograph of the firearm with a measuring device on the bottom of the photograph and the slide lock back.
Okay. Explain to the jury what you mean by having the slide locked back.
The top portion of the firearm was locked in the back position just to show that it was safe and was not loaded.
Okay. And did you have any problem with the mechanism on the slide?
No, I
putting
did not.
in that position? And with regard to States Exhibit 119, explain that exhibit to the jury.
That is a front and back photograph of the holster.
States Exhibit 120.
Those are the 5 cartridges removed from the magazine with a measuring device.
What type of measuring device is that?
It's just a scale that we use.
And in what format is it? Inches, metric?
Centimeters.
Centimeters. Thank you, sir. And with regard to States Exhibit 121 in evidence, can you explain that composite exhibit to the jury?
That would be the hollow point projectile in each cartridge and the head stamps of each cartridge.
States 122.
That is the cartridge casing I located on the driver's side floorboard.
From your purpose of searching the inside of the vehicle, is this the only shell casing that you found?
Yes, it was.
And for your purposes of looking at the inside of the vehicle and just the gun that you found, were those live rounds the only ones you found, the ones that came out of the magazine?
Yes, they were.
Were you asked to do any more thorough of a search than that?
No, ma'am.
When you remove these items, and let me show you States, I'll be showing you another exhibit in just a moment, did you package them yourself?
Yes, I did.
Did you put your initials on those packages?
Yes, I did.
What time do you think you left the scene, the residence?
It was at approximately 6:30 p.m.
Did you keep those items in your custody when going down to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, they were.
And did you document what you had actually packaged and were going to be turning over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Okay. How did you document that?
I documented on a Brevard County Sheriff's Office property receipt.
And does your receipt reflect that all of the items you've just testified to in front of this jury were put into evidence and then turned over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Did your department also turn the entire vehicle over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Were you asked to drive that vehicle back to Jacksonville?
No, I was not.
To your knowledge, how was that vehicle going to be transported from Satellite Beach to Jacksonville, Florida?
It was to be towed.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to offer the items that were depicted into evidence, and I've shown Officer Rupert it's a composite exhibit. It states 194, and it is locked, and also there is a strap through the gun, and he's checked that for me. He actually took the gun out and
All
checked
right, so you need him to help you display it?
I would love that, yes.
All right, Officer Rupert, if you'll help do that, and we'll publish those items to the jury.
Judge, Mr. Schroll has seen this exact exhibit.
All right.
So, this is state 194. May Mr. Moran step down, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
All Mr. Miranda, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to pull this box out, and I'm going to ask you to show these items. Okay, we put it up now?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll ask Officer to stand by. Let me ask you to start with the holster. Is that the holster that you just showed the jury?
Yes, it is.
And does that holster have a strap on?
And it's a lot of that.
Just a clip? And what is the purpose of the clip?
But just put it on your belt or some portion on your person.
Is there anything about that holster that would impede a person from pulling the gun straight out?
No, ma'am.
And the next exhibit is the shell casing. Is that the shell casing you found on the floorboard?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you attempt to do any processing or preserving of that other than packaging it and turning it over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
No, ma'am.
And this next item, please.
That'll be the firearm casing located in the magazine.
And then let me ask you to take the magazine out. It's on the way down. Tell you what, we'll leave it in there. You explain this to the jury.
That would be the magazine that was located in the magazine of the firearm.
Now, in the photograph that showed bullets coming out of the top, can you explain why it showed a bullet up at the top?
Because the magazine is loaded with cartridges, and every time the trigger is pulled on the firearm, a shot is fired, and a cartridge would be automatically loaded into the chamber of the firearm.
Is it fair to say that's done by a spring action?
Yes.
And then also, please. Thank you. And sir, is this the Taurus 9mm that you removed from Michael Dunn's glove box? Can you look at it, please?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I need you to speak up so our court reporter can hear you.
Yes, it is.
And does it bear the same serial number and description that you testified to earlier?
Yes, it does.
May I display?
Yes, ma'am.
And Judge, I'm going to turn it around and walk it back, if that's all right with the court,
Yes, ma'am.
to see both sides. Thank you. Would you please?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this would be an exhibit that you'll also have an opportunity to review later. It will be put back in the box and locked, obviously, but you would be able to view it from whatever side you wanted.
May I ask just a question? Do you need this left out?
You can slide it out, you can slide it in.
Thank you.
I don't need.
And just a second now.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Miranda, did you have any further involvement in this case?
No, I did not.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Stroll, across.
If it pleases the court, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Technician Miranda, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. You testified with Ms. Corey that you graduated University of Central Florida in 2009, correct?
Correct.
And it's not a specialty. You graduated with a major of criminology,
Criminal justice.
criminal justice. Kind of synonymous terms?
Sure.
Okay. And then you got a certificate of crime scene, correct?
Correct.
But you weren't hired with Brevard County in 2009, isn't that true?
No, I was not.
You didn't get hired until 2011.
That's correct.
And you worked for Disney World for 2 years before you got hired for Brevard County, correct?
That's correct.
And you basically did food inventory in the park, right?
That's correct.
And as of the time that this occurred, I believe it was November 24th, 2012. Is that correct?
Correct.
How many homicides had you helped process or investigate as a technician for Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
I would say between 5 and 10.
And out of those 5 and 10, you were lead on only about 1, true?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we see that you processed it and you took some evidence. an agent, a homicide agent, actually helped you process the vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
And that was Agent, I believe, Samak,
That's correct.
for the record, Simock. And at that point, Agent Samak was pointing out evidence to you, correct?
Correct.
And you were photographing it?
Yes.
And part of what you photographed is what we have here?
Yes.
Now, as you explained with Ms. Corey, you said that you never took the magazine out when you took the photographs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, when did that magazine come out?
It came out after I photographed both sides of the gun.
All right.
The firearm.
Let me ask you this. Is it not standard operating procedure to make sure a weapon is free and safe and clear of a bullet in the chamber before you pull it out of a holster?
Yes, it is.
Tell the jury, isn't it true Agent Samak actually made sure it was safe and clear before you pulled it out of the holster?
Yes.
He actually took the magazine out of the gun, isn't that true?
That is correct.
And when he took the magazine out of the gun, all of those 5 bullets were in the magazine, is that correct?
The way I remember it, yes.
And that's what you put in your report,
That's correct.
all right? So explain to the jury, if you eject that little button there and it ejects the magazine out the bottom, and there's 5 rounds in the magazine, you only found 5 rounds total, correct?
Correct.
That means nothing was in the chamber.
That's what that would mean, yes.
That means the gun's not ready to fire,
Correct.
all right? You'd have to then cock it to then make a live round enter that chamber, is that correct?
That's correct.
So at that point, when you found it the very next day, there was not a live round chambered in what we call one in the hole. You familiar with that term?
Yes, sir.
All right, and there was nothing in the hole or nothing chambered.
The way I remember it, that's correct.
And that would mean the gun was made safe for somebody to handle it prior to you getting there.
Correct.
And when you got there, the glove box was open, is that correct?
That's right.
All right, and when you got there, you said the garage was down.
Correct.
Do you know when the garage came down?
No, I do not. It was closed when I arrived.
All right, do you know if the garage was open before you got there?
I do not know.
And nobody told you that?
Nobody told me.
You're just going on based of what you saw
Correct.
and what you were told.
Yes.
Now, who told you only to do the interior of the Jetta?
That would have been the homicide agents that were on scene.
You talking about from Brevard County or Jacksonville?
A little of both. It would mostly would have been Jacksonville.
It was their investigation.
Correct.
They were kind of the big dogs. It's their backyard.
Right.
Even though it's on your turf, it's their investigation.
Right.
And they told you process just the interior of the Jetta, correct?
Just to search the interior of the Jetta and recover the firearm and any casings inside.
And you did that.
Yes, sir.
And you took everything what you believed out of the Jetta, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what other agents in your office found a couple days later?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm waiting for the grounds, Your Honor.
Me too.
The grounds would be, it's outside of the scope of this witness's knowledge. It would be speculation.
Sustained.
Are you
Also
aware?
be hearsay.
Well, it's not hearsay, Judge. Do you have personal knowledge of if other evidence was found in that car after you searched it?
Yes.
And what was found in that car?
But hang on, Miss Corey's on her feet. Let's see where we're going.
Objection, he earlier indicated by his agency. Maybe he needs to, maybe a specific date.
Are,
Let me withdraw my objection. It's all coming out anyway, but let me withdraw. I don't have.
Then go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me rephrase the question and repeat it. Isn't it true that after you searched the vehicle and found this evidence,
Right.
your agency found an 18 or 15 or 18 round clip, 15 I believe, in the same vehicle you processed?
That's correct.
And they found it in the same glove box where you found all of this evidence?
That's correct.
And that was after you processed it with another homicide agent?
After I searched, yes.
And, well, did you search it? Did you process it? It's kind of the
I
same
s-
thing.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
All right, you were there to process the evidence,
I was there to search for evidence.
and whatever evidence you found, you processed it,
I packaged it, yes. I
Okay.
didn't necessarily process it.
and you missed another clip in that same glove box.
Yes.
And that was found days later.
Not exactly the time frame. I'm not sure of the time frame it was found, but I do know it was found.
And did you secure that vehicle once you left?
When I left, the vehicle was in the garage, placed back in the garage.
So you didn't put any tape around it? You didn't tell anybody not to drive it? The police didn't say we want it? Nothing like that?
I didn't put tape. I was just told we were done here, and then
And who told you you were done there?
Pretty much the JSO agents.
And those are the Jacksonville homicide detectives?
Yes, sir.
Did they ever tell you to process the outside of the vehicle?
They never asked me to, no.
Are you aware if any evidence was found on the outside of that vehicle?
I do know that there was evidence found on the outside.
And those were casings that somebody found on the same vehicle that you guys walked around that day?
Correct.
But nobody found it because nobody was told to look there?
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
Ms. Corey?
Just to clarify, do you know whether or not the further evidence that was found was processed or found by your department or by our Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
That I do not know. It's just when I was told that it was found, I must have misunderstood the information given to me that it was found. I must have interpreted that that person that told me found it.
All right, sir. But you did what you were asked to do on that day by your detectives to whom you answer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
May he be excused?
I need to know yes, sir, because he's an out-of-town witness.
Mr. Stroller?
So excuse, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Rachel?
State's next witness.
Detective Mark Musser.
Detective Musser.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't talk, so.
Mr. Stroller, your mic might be on.
Thank you, Judge.
Just letting you know. Detective, you'll come forward to the front for me, please, sir. And raise your right hand. The clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
All right, Detective, you'll come around and have a seat for us. Be sure and speak up loudly, directly into the microphone so everybody can hear you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Guy.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. If you please tell the members of the jury your name.
Detective Mark Musser,
Detective Musser, where are you employed?
Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with JSO?
A little over 9 years.
And your current assignment is where?
The homicide unit.
How long specifically then as a homicide detective?
A little over almost 4.5 years.
And just briefly tell the jury what your duties and responsibilities are as a detective with a homicide unit at JSO.
We conduct investigations of any death investigations in the city, anything from homicides to suicides to overdoses to accidental death.
All right. Were you a detective in any other divisions before moving to homicide?
Yes.
And what were those?
I was in the burglary unit, and it was also in our aggravated battery unit.
And what types of cases are handled by the aggravated battery unit?
Aggravated battery unit would handle non-life-threatening shootings. It had to be a weapons-related case where it was just non-life-threatening injuries.
So in total, how long have you been a detective for JSO?
It's actually about 5.5 years total.
All right. And were you in patrol before joining the detective division?
Yes.
In your law enforcement career, approximately how many death investigations have you participated in?
I would say I've been to hundreds of scenes.
Let me turn your attention to the evening of November 23rd, 2012. On that date, were you dispatched to the scene of a shooting at the Gate gas station located at 8251 Southside Boulevard?
Yes, I was.
And did you respond to that scene?
Yes, I did.
About what time did you arrive?
I arrived at approximately 9 o'clock.
All right. Did you later learn the deceased name from that shooting to be Jordan Davis?
Yes, I did.
All right. Had Jordan Davis's body already been transported by rescue by the time you arrived?
Yes.
Would you explain for the jury the team concept that JSO employs to handle and respond to homicide scenes?
The homicide unit is separated into teams. There are 6 teams. There are 4 detectives and a sergeant on each team, and we investigate the cases as a team.
And were you assigned as the lead detective on this case?
Yes, I was.
And how did that come to be? Were you selected? Was it your turn, or how did that happen?
It was my turn. It rotates amongst the detectives.
All right. And did you eventually make an arrest for the murder of Jordan Davis and the attempted murder of 3 other juveniles?
Yes, I did.
And who did you arrest?
Michael Dunn?
You see that person in court this afternoon?
Yes, I do.
Can you please identify him by where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's to the left of Mr. Strolla, wearing kind of the purple pullover and kind of a purple-pink tie.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant.
Thank you, sir. Had the scene at the Gate gas station been taped off and secured when you arrived?
Yes.
And when you arrived, did you speak with other members of the sheriff's office who were already on scene?
Yes, I did.
And did evidence technicians respond to process that scene?
Yes, they did.
All right. While you were at the scene, did you and other homicide detectives speak with any witnesses who were present at the time of the shooting?
Yes, we did.
And among those witnesses that evening, did you interview personally Samantha Ickes and Maria Grimes?
Yes, I did speak with them at the scene.
All right. And while you're doing that, are other members of your homicide team interviewing other witnesses at the scene?
Yes, my sergeant was actually conducting additional witness interviews at the scene while I was doing mine.
All right. That evening, did your office get a vehicle description and tag number of the car from which the shots were fired?
Yes.
All right. And from that information, were you able to retrieve the name of the person who the car was registered to?
Yes, I was.
Did you conduct a walkthrough of the scene?
Yes, we did.
And tell the jury briefly what's a walkthrough. What do you mean by that?
I'll meet with the evidence technician at the scene. We simply walk through the scene, looking to identify any possible items of evidentiary value, discuss the scenario of what we're being told at the time so that myself and the evidence technician are on the same page so we know what we're looking for.
All right. And during your walkthrough, did you observe the red Dodge Durango at the gas station?
Yes, I did.
Did you or other homicide detectives attempt to get video surveillance from outside the Gate gas station that evening?
Well, as soon as we arrived, we were advised by patrol officers that there was no video on the exterior of the business.
All right. Were you able to retrieve, or you or one of your team members able to retrieve video surveillance from inside the Gate store?
Yes, we were.
At a later date, did you or another homicide detective attempt to get video surveillance from the adjacent plaza of stores that covered the parking lot?
Yes, we did.
Were there any functioning cameras that covered the parking lot area of that plaza?
None were located.
While you were at the scene, did you attempt to interview any of the three young men that were in the Dodge Durango at the time of the shooting?
No, we did not.
And why not?
We decided to wait and have them brought down to the homicide office so that we could have a controlled environment with no distractions.
All right. And the names of those three young men are what?
Tommy Storns, Leland Brunson, and Tevin Thompson.
And so what did you have done with those three individuals?
They were brought to our homicide office. They were each placed in individual rooms, and we began interviews.
All right. Were you still at the scene while those three young men were transported to the police station?
Yes.
And about what time did you leave the scene at the Gate station?
I left the scene approximately, checking my notes real quick, I believe it was about 11:30, or excuse me, about 11:15.
All right. All right. And where'd you go from the scene?
Went to the homicide office.
All right. Were the three young men already there when you arrived at the police station?
Yes.
All right. And were they interviewed that evening?
Yes, they were.
Were they interviewed separately or together?
Separately.
Okay. And why is that done?
Just so that we can talk to them on an individual basis and there's no crossing of information. They can't hear what the other one's saying to us at that time.
All right. And is that standard procedure when you interview witnesses to crimes?
Yes, it is.
All right. Were any of the interviews of those three young men recorded either by video or audio?
No, they were not.
Why not?
That's standard procedure. We do not record individuals who are not considered suspects.
All right. Was a written statement taken from any of those three young men?
No.
Did you participate in the interview of Leland Brunson that evening?
Yes, I did.
And about what time did that interview begin?
I interviewed Leland approximately 11:30 that night.
And where was that interview conducted?
Interview room of the homicide office.
Was anyone else present for that interview?
Detective Oliver and Leland's mother was also present.
All right. Who's Detective Oliver?
He was my partner at that time.
All right. And why was Leland Brunson's mother in the interview room during his interview?
We thought it was the right thing to do. He was visibly distraught, and his mother was present, and we thought it would be the right thing to do to have him in the room just for a little bit of have somebody to console him.
All right. And his demeanor, when you just say distraught, what do you mean?
He was very quiet, visibly shaken. You could tell it had been a rough time for him.
Was Leland Brunson cooperative with you?
Yes.
Did he answer all of your questions?
Yes.
Did you also participate in the interview of Tevin Thompson?
Yes, I did.
And who was present for that interview?
Detective Oliver.
And the same Detective Oliver that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, sir.
All right. And about what time did that interview begin?
That was approximately 11:55 p.m.
All right. Was Tevin Thompson cooperative with you?
Yes, he
And
was.
did he answer all of your questions?
Yes, he did.
Did you participate in the initial interview of Tommy Storns?
I did not.
And why is that?
He arrived at the office prior to my return from the scene. Detective Oliver was already at the homicide office, so he began the interview with Tommy Storns.
All right. During those interviews, did you or Detective Oliver advise any of those three young men that Jordan Davis had actually died?
Not until we completed our interviews.
Okay, and why did you wait until the conclusion of the interviews to advise them that Jordan Davis had died?
Unfortunately, it's something we often have to do with witnesses at scenes if they're not aware of a death, because we know once we tell them someone has died, it can be so traumatic to them that they might shut down, and we want them talking to us at that point to gain information, so we wait until the end to finally tell them what the situation is.
All right. Later that evening, or even after midnight, did you again meet with each of those three young men for the purpose of showing them a photo spread?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what is a photo spread and how is it used in an investigation such as this?
Photo spread is used for trying to get an identification. You take an individual, in this case the suspect, included with 5 other photographs of people who have similar characteristics to that individual, and it's a way of trying to see if the witness can identify a particular person.
All right, and did the photo spread in this case include a photograph of Michael Dunn?
Yes, it did.
All right, and is that because you had his name when you ran the tag number?
Yes, he was the registered owner of the vehicle, and his physical description was consistent with the physical descriptions we were getting at the scene.
Was more than one copy of that photo spread created?
Yes.
And why was that?
So each person you're going to show a photo spread to gets an individual. That way, if one of them happens to mark on the picture they've identified, the person who behind them who's getting it is going to get a clean slate. They're not going to see any kind of markings on it that would tell them somebody else has already identified somebody.
And were the three individual photo spreads identical to each other?
Yes.
All right. And were those photo spreads presented to the three young men while they were together or separately?
Separate.
And why is that?
Once again, so none of them know if any of the others have identified anybody.
All right. Who did you show the photo spread to first?
I believe I showed it to Leland Brunson first. Oh, correction, Tevin Thompson.
All right. And about what time was that?
Showed it to him at approximately 12:50 a.m.
And where did you do that?
in the same interview room we'd interviewed him in.
All right. Before presenting the photo spread to Tevin Thompson, did you give him any instructions about viewing the photo spread?
Yes, we have called a photo spread instructions sheet that we read aloud to them. It gives them basically what the procedure is, and I go over that with him, make sure he understands them, and he signs the form acknowledging he understands the instructions.
All right, and was that procedure followed with Tevin Thompson, Leland Brunson, and Tommy Storms?
Yes.
All right. Did you then present the photo spread to Tevin Thompson?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Normal way to do it is I would have the pictures upside down. I shuffle them so I don't know where the target person is, and then I hand the pictures upside down to Tevin, and I will actually look down so I'm not looking at him while he's going through his photo spread, because that way I can't see who he's looking at, so there's no facial expression for me to indicate I know who he's looking for or anything that could tell him that's the suspect.
And did Tevin Thompson identify anyone in the photo spread?
Yes, he did.
Who was that?
Michael Dunn.
And did you have Tevin Thompson sign and date the photo that he selected?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
It states 162. First, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
This is the photo spread instructions form that I went over with Tevin.
And how do you recognize it to be the same?
His name's listed. It's got his signature, my signature, and it also has the red dot in the top right corner, which is what I marked to make sure that I know what the original is.
Very good. Will you read the instructions to the jury that you read to these three young men that evening before presenting each of them with a photo spread?
Sure. The instructions are, the person who committed the crime being investigated may or may not be in these photographs. It is just as important to clear innocent persons from suspicion as to identify guilty parties. You are not obligated to pick anyone from these photographs. Carefully review each photograph presented to you. Individuals presented in this photo spread may not appear exactly as they did on the date of the crime because features such as head and facial hair are subject to change. Look at every photograph before you make a decision. Take as much time as you need to examine each photograph. I am not allowed to give you any assistance in identifying or not identifying a suspect. You will be asked to sign and date the back of the photograph if one is selected. Do not discuss this photo spread or the results of this photo spread with any other witnesses.
All right. Let me show you then states 161. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It's a photograph of Michael Dunn that Tevin Thompson identified.
And how do you recognize it to be the same?
Tevin has signed it, dated it, indicated this is the man that was shooting, and I signed and put my identification number on it.
And let me show you 164 and 166. We'll take 164 first.
Okay. As the photo spread instructions for Leland Brunson.
And 166.
It's the photo spread instructions for Tommy Storms.
All right. And how do you recognize it to be the same as each of those?
Same also, they each, their names are both placed at the top. They have both signed it. I have also signed it and put the date and time.
All right. Did you then, after you showed the photo spread to Tevin Thompson, did you then present that same photo spread to Leland Brunson?
Yes, I did.
All right. And again, was that done separately from any other witness?
Yes, it was in the same room as we had interviewed him in.
All right. Did Leland Brunson identify anyone from that photo spread?
He did not make a positive identification.
All right. Was he able to narrow the photographs down to anyone?
He was able to narrow it down to 2 photographs.
You know, if I can have just a moment.
Yes, sir.
He narrowed it down to 2 photos?
Yes.
Okay, so did you have him sign either one of those?
No,
Why not?
because it was not a positive identification.
All right. When you, did you note, though, which 2 photos he selected?
Yes.
Okay, was one of those photographs of Michael Dunn?
Yes, it was.
All right. After you showed the photo spread to Leland Brunson, did you then present it to Tommy Storms?
Yes, I did.
All right. And did you follow the same steps that you've already described?
Yes.
All right. When Tommy Storms was shown the photo spread, did he identify anyone?
He did not make a positive identification.
And what did he do? Did he narrow it down?
He narrowed it down into the same 2 photographs that Leland Brunson narrowed it down to, which included Michael Dunn.
All right. And the other photograph you refer to as a filler photo?
Correct.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you first 163. You recognize that?
Yes, that's the photograph of Michael Dunn.
Okay. And does that contain the photos, all the photos in the spread?
Yes.
All right. Let me show you, and you can flip through it.
Yes, it appears to contain all the photographs that were shown.
All right. And 165.
The same photograph of Michael Dunn.
All right. And again, does that contain all of the photographs?
It appears to.
All right. So these are not marked because there was not a positive identification.
Correct.
All right. But Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson did select the defendant's photograph as well as a filler photograph?
Correct.
Do you recall which filler photograph they each selected?
Yes.
All right. Would you pull that out? And let me have this one, if I can. Judge, may I publish these to the jury?
Yes, sir.
So in my right hand, I have the photograph of,
Michael Dunn.
and in the left, the filler photograph.
That's our filler photograph.
So these are the 2 photographs selected by each Leland Brunson and Tommy Storms.
Yes.
After those photo spreads were viewed, did you and your sergeant and other team members continue investigating the case?
Yes, we did.
At some point after midnight, in those early morning hours after the photo spreads were presented, did you obtain an arrest warrant for the defendant's arrest?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time of day was that arrest warrant signed?
3:35 in the morning.
And was the arrest warrant signed for the charges of murder and attempted murder?
Yes.
All right, when was the defendant, and let me just back up. When you say 3:30 or 3:35 in the morning, are you talking about the morning now of the 24th?
Yes, Saturday morning at approximately 3:35.
All right. And when was the defendant taken into custody?
Saturday morning, approximately 11 a.m.
All right, and where?
At his residence in Brevard County,
All right, and by what agency?
Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
And was that pursuant to the warrant that had been signed in Jacksonville?
Yes.
All right. Did you and other JSO homicide detectives or your sergeant drive to Brevard County that morning?
Yes, we did.
And about what time did you leave Jacksonville?
Approximately 12:30 that afternoon.
12:30 noonish?
Yes.
On the 24th?
Correct.
All right. Had you been home yet, or had you taken any type of break to go to sleep?
No.
Is that because you continued to investigate the case throughout that evening?
Yes.
While you were in Brevard County that day, did you interview a woman named Rhonda Rower?
Yes, we did.
And about what time of day on the 24th did you interview Rhonda Rower?
That was approximately about 5:15 in the afternoon.
And where did you interview her?
I was at a neighbor's residence of hers.
Was Ms. Rower cooperative with you?
Yes, she was.
Did she answer your questions?
Yes.
And while you were in Brevard County, did you go to the defendant's residence?
Yes, we did.
All right. Did you locate the black Volkswagen Jetta?
Yes, we did.
And was the interior of that car searched by a crime scene analyst with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, it was.
All right. And was a firearm retrieved from that car?
Yes, there was.
All right. Did you later have that firearm and the car itself, the black Jetta itself, transported to Jacksonville?
Yes.
And when did you do that?
The firearm was brought back. I'd have to check my notes. I believe it was the Wednesday the following week. I believe that's the 28th of November, if I'm not mistaken. And the vehicle was brought back, I believe, several days later.
All right. When did you and the other detectives return to Jacksonville?
Sunday, early afternoon on Sunday.
All right, so now the 25th?
Correct.
All right. As part of your investigation, did you visit the hotel where the defendant and Rhonda Rower had stayed on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
Yes, we did.
And when did you do that?
That was on, I believe it was Monday, the 26th.
All right. And where was that hotel?
It's a Sheraton Hotel located in Deerwood Park.
You had been to the scene at the gate station. Can you give the jury an idea of roughly how far it is from the gate gas station to the hotel, the Sheraton Hotel?
Driving distance, it's approximately 3 miles.
Did you have an occasion, let me turn your attention to the next day, November 27th. Did you have an occasion on that day to view the red SUV now at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office warehouse?
Yes.
And was your purpose in viewing the car to examine the child locks on the car?
Yes, it was.
Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
All right. Was Detective Bill Whittacy with you that day?
Yes.
And he's an evidence technician with the Sheriff's Office?
Correct.
All right. And were any other detectives with you?
Detective Oliver.
All right. And when you examined the child locks, what position were they in? Was the on position or the off position?
They were in the off position.
While you were viewing the car, did you see anything underneath the seats of the car?
There did appear to be some kind of plastic tripod, like multiple-legged. I had a hard time describing what it is exactly.
All right. Let me ask you to turn to your monitor. Do you see States 43 in the photograph?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me show you States 44. 43 and 44. Do you recognize that as the red Dodge Durango?
Yes.
Okay. Can you circle for the jury, if it appears on that photograph, the area where you saw this tripod?
When we were looking at it, we could see its legs around underneath the seat right here.
All right. And you've indicated the rear passenger seat.
Correct.
Okay. Did you or Detective Oliver make any attempt to get that tripod out of there?
Detective Oliver actually sat in the seat to see if it was something that could be reached.
And was he able to reach it?
Not seated in the vehicle, no.
Okay, were you able to remove it from there?
Yes,
Explain to the jury how you were able to get that tripod out from underneath that seat.
to actually pull it, you would actually have to open the door, step out of the vehicle, and then pull it out the side of the vehicle. You couldn't get it out with the door shut.
Okay, so you'd have to open the back door and then pull it out outside the car?
Correct.
As opposed to from underneath the seat?
Correct.
In front of you? Okay. As part of your investigation, did you also order and receive cell phone records for Leland Brunson, Tommy Storms, and Tevin Thompson?
Yes, I did.
And you received those?
Yes.
All right, and were they maintained in your file?
Yes.
All right, and on those phone records, did you examine them to determine if and when any of those three young men had called 911?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Because these are marked for identification only at this point.
All right.
8P, hand you that, you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
It's the response from Metro PCS for the telephone number of Tevin Thompson.
All right. And 8Q, you recognize that?
Yes, these appear to be the phone numbers or the phone call record for Leland Brunson.
And 8R, you recognize that?
Yes, these appear to be the cell phone records for Tommy Storms.
Judge, at this time, I would offer 8P, 8Q, 8R into evidence as the next numbered exhibits. I believe they would be 198 through 200.
Mr. Strolla?
No objection, Your Honor.
And Madam Clerk, would that be the next proper number?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so 8P will be received as 198, and those are the records of Mr. Thompson. 8Q will be received as 199, and those are the records of Mr. Brunson. And 8R will be received as 200, and those are the records of Mr. Storms.
Detective, did you identify those records by the phone number of the records?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Thompson's, do those records come with a self-identifying sheet? That is, the records tell you who the phone belongs to?
It tells you who the registered name is on that phone.
Okay, the other two records from Sprint, that of Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson, do they self-identify who the phone is registered to?
No, they just, in their response to the subpoena, the company just sends us the phone records for that number.
All right, so you identify it by the number.
Correct.
Your Honor, is there any objection from the defense counsel from the court for the detective to write on the exhibit who the records belong to so there's no confusion?
Mr. Strolla?
Judge, I thought they are well marked. If I can just look it down, I know they were marked in my evidence.
Okay. Apparently they just, on two of them, it's just the phone number.
Judge, if I may have a moment to verify.
Yes, sir. Any objection, Mr. Strolla?
Not in the order we just went over, Judge, no objection.
All right, so the detective can write on the records themselves the name of the person who
So
corresponds with that phone number.
Yes, sir. 199 would be, again, who?
Just one on the
That would be
outside.
Mr. Brunson.
Yep.
Yes.
take it on the sleeve.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking.
on 200, Judge, the phone records of Tommy Storms, he'll mark that accordingly. All right, and let me ask you now to look at States 199, the phone records of Leland Brunson. Detective, do those records reflect that Leland Brunson ever called 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
No, they did not show Leland Brunson calling 911.
Do they reflect the last outgoing call before 7:38 p.m. on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
The last outbound call is at approximately 6 p.m.
All right. Let me show you then the records of Tevin Thompson, States 198, and ask you if those phone records reflect a call to 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012.
Yes, they do.
At what time is the call to 911?
7:43 p.m.
And does do the phone records reflect the duration of that 911 call?
They say 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Will you tell the members of the jury, please, what the phone records reflect about the last outgoing phone call before the call to 911?
That outgoing call was placed at 7:22 p.m. And it was not answered.
And if we can look at 200 then, the phone records of Tommy Storms. If you would examine those and tell the members of the jury whether or not they reflect a call to 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012.
Yes, they do.
And tell the members of the jury what time it was.
Approximately 7:40 p.m.
And what was the duration of that call to 911?
Appears to be 1 second.
And what is the last outgoing call from that cell phone prior to the call to 911?
The last outbound call is shown at 5:05 p.m.
All right. And you've been reading from those records, and I'm asking for dates and times and calls to 911 and duration. Is all of that readily apparent on the records themselves?
Yes.
Okay, so these aren't in any kind of code.
No. I'm used to looking at them, but I think they're pretty self-evident.
Do the phone records tell you if the call is inbound or outbound?
Yes.
Do they tell you the time of the call?
Yes.
And the date?
Yes.
And the duration?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Detective, after November 27th, did you continue to investigate this case?
Yes.
And did you interview witnesses as part of that ongoing investigation?
Yes, we did.
At some point, did you interview a gentleman named Christopher LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when did you interview that individual?
That interview was on Monday, December 3rd.
And why was it that you interviewed Mr. LeBlanc, Christopher LeBlanc, on December 3rd? How did you get to him on that date?
I've learned about Mr. LeBlanc after reviewing all of the 911 calls on the previous Friday, November 30th.
And was he cooperative with you?
Yes.
All right. Did you also interview Christopher LeBlanc's sister, Alyssa LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when did you interview her?
That was on Tuesday, December 4th.
All right. And again, why did you interview her on that day?
We had learned about her also the same phone call from Friday the 30th, and the Tuesday was the first day that we were actually able to make contact with her and make a time that we'd come speak with her.
All right. This may seem like a silly question. They were interviewed on separate days. Were they interviewed separately?
Yes, they were.
Okay. As part of your investigation, did you have items of physical evidence submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for further analysis?
Yes, I did.
And did that include the firearm recovered from the defendant's gun, as well as a DNA swab from shell casings collected from the casings at the scene?
Yes.
And did you receive results back from those examinations?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, may I have a moment?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you I'd give you a little quicker break this afternoon because of the seats. So why don't we take 10 minutes, make it 15, because I know some of you might need 15. I can't, there's a glare back there. Call it 2:30, and we'll resume. Don't discuss the case among yourselves or with others. See you back in 15 minutes. Mr. Guy.